She was divorced by Millionaire CEO for being barren. Later shocked her daughter looked like his mother. "She looks like my mother," Maxwell whispered, his voice a mixture of awe and accusation as he stared at the 5-year-old girl. "Genetics are fascinating that way," Elena replied with a small smile. "Sometimes the truth reveals itself in unexpected ways." "You had no right to keep this from me?" Maxwell hissed, anger replacing his shock. "She's my daughter too. You divorced me for being barren," Elena reminded him, her voice low but intense. "You publicly humiliated me, called me a failure as a woman. You forfeited any right to her the moment you signed those divorce papers. Have you ever wondered what happens when a powerful man discards someone he believes is no longer useful, only to discover years later that his greatest mistake has come back to haunt him? Today's story will take you on an emotional journey of betrayal, resilience, and the sweetest form of justice that no amount of money could ever prevent. If you've ever been underestimated, dismissed, or cast aside by someone who thought they held all the power, hit that like button right now. And if you believe that sometimes the universe has a perfect way of balancing the scales, subscribe to Timeless Love Tales with Mr. Harrison for more stories that will touch your heart and restore your faith in justice. Elena Chun stared at the divorce papers, her hands trembling. After 5 years of marriage and 3 miscarriages, her husband, Maxwell Reed, CEO of Reed Enterprises, had finally shown his true colors. Barren, he'd called her. A failure. Unable to provide the heir his family dynasty needed. The prenup left her with barely enough to start over in a small apartment across town. Her career as a marketing executive sacrificed years ago at Maxwell's insistence was now a distant memory. At 34, she was starting from scratch. The divorce proceedings were swift and brutal. Maxwell's high-powered legal team ensured the settlement was minimal, citing the prenuptial agreement Elena had signed when she was still starry-eyed and in love. The society pages covered the story with thinly veiled cruelty. Reed CEO seeks new beginning after failed marriage, and Maxwell Reed back on the market. No one mentioned how Elena had stood by him when Reed Enterprises was struggling, how she'd worked 18-hour days alongside him, strategizing marketing campaigns that helped transform his family's failing company into a tech powerhouse. No one cared that she had lost 3 pregnancies trying to give him the child he demanded. "You had one job," Maxwell had told her coldly on the night he'd asked her to leave their home. "To continue the Reed legacy. My mother warned me you weren't from the right stock." Those words cut deeper than any legal document. Elena had always felt like an outsider among the old money families Maxwell associated with, but she'd believed their love transcended those differences. How wrong she had been. What Maxwell didn't know was that Elena had discovered his affair with his assistant, Vanessa, 2 months before he filed for divorce. More importantly, he didn't know about the appointment Elena had kept at the fertility clinic the day after finding them together. The doctor had been clear. Elena's reproductive system was perfectly healthy. The problem had never been with her. "Based on these results, Mrs. Reed, the issue appears to be with your husband's sperm motility," Dr. Patel had explained gently. "Have you discussed having him tested?" Elena sat in the sterile office, the words hitting her like physical blows. "No," she whispered. "He always assumed. He never considered." "This is quite common," Dr. Patel said, her kind eyes meeting Elena's. "Many men, especially successful ones, find it difficult to accept that fertility issues could originate with them." Elena never had the chance to share this information. Maxwell had already made up his mind, already found a replacement. Someone younger, from a suitable family background, someone he believed could give him what Elena supposedly couldn't. In a moment of foresight or perhaps desperation, Elena had made a decision that would change everything. During their last round of fertility treatments, Several of Elena's eggs had been harvested and fertilized with Maxwell's sperm. 3 viable embryos remained frozen at the clinic. "I'd like to keep them," she told Dr. Patel during that final appointment. "They're as much mine as they are his." The doctor had hesitated. "Legally, without Mr. Reed's consent. He's divorcing me for being barren," Elena interrupted, her voice steady despite her breaking heart. "He's already forgotten these embryos exist. Please." Perhaps it was compassion, or perhaps it was recognition of the injustice being done to her, but Dr. Patel had nodded. "I'll need you to sign some papers. Technically, they'll remain in storage under both names, but I can note your intent to potentially use them in the future." Elena signed the documents, not knowing if she would ever act on this possibility, but unwilling to let Maxwell take this final hope from her too. The first year after the divorce was the hardest. Elena moved to a modest apartment in a different part of the city and took the first marketing job she could find. Far below her qualifications, but necessary to rebuild her life. Nights were spent updating her portfolio, reconnecting with former colleagues, and sometimes crying until exhaustion finally brought sleep. She watched from a distance as Maxwell married Vanessa just 6 months after their divorce was finalized. Society pages gushed about the perfect match and speculated about how soon they would start a family. Each headline was a fresh wound, but Elena forced herself to read them, to use the pain as fuel for her determination to reclaim her life. "Did you see this?" her friend May asked one evening, sliding a magazine across the table at the small cafe where they met weekly. "They're already talking about the Reed heir." Elena glanced at the glossy photo of Maxwell and Vanessa at a charity gala, her replacement glowing in a designer gown, Maxwell's hand possessively on her waist. The caption read, "Reed Enterprises power couple planning for family expansion soon." "Good luck with that," Elena murmured, pushing the magazine away. "What do you mean?" May asked, eyebrows raised. Elena hesitated, then shook her head. "Nothing. Just nothing." By the second year, things began to improve. Elena's talent couldn't be suppressed for long. She was promoted twice, then headhunted by a rival firm that recognized her brilliance. She made new friends, started dating occasionally, and began to recognize herself in the mirror again. Not as Maxwell Reed's failed wife, but as Elena Chun, marketing strategist extraordinaire. "We'd like to offer you the position of Senior Marketing Director," Marcus Donovan, the CEO of Pinnacle Marketing, told her after a series of impressive interviews. "Your portfolio is exceptional, and frankly, I can't believe Reed let someone with your talent walk away." "He didn't let me walk away," Elena said quietly. "He pushed me out the door." Marcus leaned back in his chair. "Then he's an even bigger fool than I thought." Yet something was missing. As she approached her 36th birthday, Elena found herself thinking more often about those 3 embryos still frozen at the fertility clinic. Her career was flourishing, her financial situation stable. Perhaps it was time to consider a different kind of future than the one she had imagined with Maxwell. The call came on a rainy Tuesday evening. Elena had just returned from a successful client meeting when her phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Ms. Chan? This is Dr. Patel from Westside Fertility Clinic. I hope I'm not disturbing you." Elena's heart raced. "Not at all. Is everything all right?" "Yes. But I wanted to inform you personally. Mr. Reed has contacted the clinic requesting that all remaining embryos from your treatments be destroyed. As they're still legally registered to both of you, I wanted to discuss your options before proceeding." Time seemed to stop. Elena sank onto her sofa, mind racing. "He can't do that, can he? Not without my consent." "It's complicated," Dr. Patel admitted. "Without a specific agreement in your divorce settlement regarding the embryos, both parties technically have equal say. However, given the circumstances and the documentation we have regarding your intent, we can delay any action while you consult with a lawyer. That night, Elena barely slept. By morning, she had made her decision. She called her lawyer, then the fertility clinic. I want to proceed with implantation, she told Dr. Patel firmly. As soon as possible. Elena, are you certain? Dr. Patel asked. This will likely trigger legal action from Mr. Reed. I'm certain, Elena replied, her voice unwavering. These embryos are as much mine as they are his. And unlike Maxwell, I actually want to be a parent for the right reasons. If you've ever had to fight for something that was rightfully yours against someone with far more power and resources, hit that like button. And if you believe that sometimes we have to make difficult choices to create the future we deserve, share this video with someone who needs to hear this message of courage and determination. The procedure was scheduled for the following week. Elena took a leave of absence from work, citing personal health reasons. She told no one except May, who held her hand in the waiting room before the embryo transfer. Are you ready for this? May asked, squeezing Elena's fingers. Being a single mother won't be easy. I've survived worse, Elena replied with a small smile. And this child will be loved more than Maxwell could ever imagine. The weeks after the procedure were filled with anxious waiting. Elena jumped at every phone call, fearing Maxwell's lawyers had somehow discovered what she'd done. But the call that came instead was from Dr. Patel, her voice warm with good news. Congratulations, Elena. You're pregnant. Tears streamed down Elena's face as she pressed a hand to her still flat stomach. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you so much. Elena's pregnancy progressed without complications. She worked until her 7th month, saving every penny for the life she would soon share with her child. When her daughter was born, a healthy, beautiful baby with a shock of dark hair and curious eyes, Elena named her Lily, after her own grandmother who had taught her about resilience and dignity. Hello, Lily, she whispered in the hospital room, cradling her newborn. It's just you and me against the world, but I promise that will be more than enough. For 5 years, Elena and Lily lived a quiet, happy life away from the spotlight that constantly followed Maxwell Reed. Elena had moved to a different city, accepting a position at a boutique marketing firm that offered flexible hours and a supportive environment for working mothers. She never mentioned Maxwell's name, never sought child support, never reached out to inform him of Lily's existence. As Lily grew, Elena noticed features that reminded her of Maxwell. The shape of her eyes, the determined set of her jaw when she concentrated. But there was something else, something Elena couldn't quite place until Lily's 5th birthday, when she was looking through old photos from her marriage. There, in a faded family portrait taken at the Reed estate, stood Maxwell's mother, Evelyn, a formidable woman who had never approved of Elena. The resemblance between Evelyn and Lily was striking. The same high cheekbones, the same distinctive widow's peak, the same slight dimple in the left cheek when they smiled. Genetics, Elena murmured, tracing her finger over Evelyn's face in the photograph. Skip a generation indeed. The collision of her past and present came unexpectedly. A corporate merger brought Elena's firm under the umbrella of a larger company, one that frequently did business with Reed Enterprises. Elena had carefully vetted all clients to avoid any connection to her ex-husband. But this development was beyond her control. We need our best people at the launch event, her boss explained. That includes you, Elena. Reed Enterprises is sending their executive team, and this could mean major accounts for us. Elena considered resigning rather than risking an encounter with Maxwell. But her daughter's future had to come first. She arranged for Lily to stay with May during the 3-day conference in Chicago, packed her most professional attire, and prepared herself mentally for the possibility of seeing her ex-husband. The first day passed without incident. Elena stayed in the background during presentations, contributed brilliantly when called upon, and avoided the social mixers where executives mingled. On the second day, her luck ran out. "Elena-chan," a familiar voice said behind her as she waited for an elevator. "I thought that was you." She turned slowly, her heart hammering against her ribs. Maxwell Reed stood before her, as impeccably dressed as ever, though with more gray at his temples than she remembered. His expression was a mixture of surprise and something else. Curiosity, perhaps, or calculation. "Maxwell," she acknowledged with a slight nod. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Clearly," he replied, his eyes taking in her appearance. "You look well." "Thank you. You'll have to excuse me. I'm late for a meeting." The elevator doors opened, and Elena stepped inside, praying he wouldn't follow. He did. "I heard you're doing impressive work at Horizon Marketing," he said as the doors closed. "Your campaign for Nexus Tech was particularly noteworthy." Elena kept her eyes fixed on the floor numbers. "I'm surprised you'd notice." "I notice everything about potential competitors," Maxwell replied smoothly. "Or potential acquisitions." The implication wasn't lost on Elena. Reed Enterprises had been on an aggressive expansion spree, absorbing smaller companies across various sectors. The thought of working under Maxwell's control again made her stomach turn. "Horizon isn't for sale," she said firmly as the elevator reached her floor. Maxwell's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Everything has a price, Elena. You should know that better than most." Before she could respond, her phone rang, May's ringtone. Elena stepped out of the elevator, turning away from Maxwell to answer. "Elena, I'm so sorry to bother you at work." May's voice was tense. "Lily fell at the playground. We're at Chicago Memorial. The doctor says it's just a sprained wrist, but she's asking for you." "I'm on my way," Elena said immediately, her professional composure cracking. "Tell her mommy's coming right now." She ended the call and turned to find Maxwell still watching her, his expression unreadable. "Family emergency," she said curtly. "Please excuse me." "Of course," he replied, holding the elevator door. "I hope everything is all right." Elena rushed to the hospital, thoughts of Maxwell temporarily pushed aside by concern for her daughter. She found Lily in a treatment room, her small wrist being wrapped in a bandage by a kind-faced nurse. May stood nearby, looking relieved when Elena appeared. "Mommy," Lily called out, her eyes bright despite the tears that had dried on her cheeks. "I fell from the monkey bars, but I was so brave." "You certainly were," Elena agreed, kissing her daughter's forehead. "My brave, strong girl." The doctor assured Elena that the injury was minor, a slight sprain that would heal completely within a week or two. As they prepared to leave, Elena knelt to help Lily put on her jacket, not noticing the tall figure that had appeared in the doorway. "Elena!" She froze at the sound of Maxwell's voice, then slowly stood and turned. He stood just inside the room, his expression one of genuine shock as his eyes moved from Elena to Lily and back again. "What are you doing here?" Elena asked, instinctively moving to stand between him and her daughter. Maxwell didn't answer. He was staring at Lily with an intensity that made Elena's protective instincts flare. "Who is this?" he finally asked, though the answer was written clearly on his face. "This is my daughter, Lily," Elena said evenly. "Lily, this is an old friend of Mommy's from work." Lily, ever polite, smiled up at the stranger. "Hello," she said, holding up her bandaged wrist. "I hurt myself, but the doctor says I'll be all better soon." Maxwell seemed unable to look away from the child's face. "How old are you, Lily?" he asked, his voice strangely hoarse. "I'm 5.5, Lily answered proudly. My birthday is in April. Elena watched as Maxwell did the mental calculation, his eyes widening slightly. April, he repeated. 5 years ago. We should go, Elena said firmly, taking Lily's uninjured hand. Thank you for checking on us, but as you can see, everything is under control. She looks like my mother, Maxwell whispered, his voice a mixture of awe and accusation as he stared at the 5-year-old girl. Genetics are fascinating that way, Elena replied with a small smile. Sometimes the truth reveals itself in unexpected ways. You had no right to keep this from me? Maxwell hissed, anger replacing his shock. She's my daughter too. You divorced me for being barren, Elena reminded him, her voice low but intense. You publicly humiliated me, called me a failure as a woman. You forfeited any right to her the moment you signed those divorce papers. If you're wondering what happens when a powerful man discovers the truth he never expected, stay tuned for the next part of this incredible story. Hit that like button if you believe that sometimes karma delivers the perfect justice. And subscribe to Timeless Love Tales with Mr. Harrison for more stories that will touch your heart and make you believe in the power of resilience. May quickly stepped forward, taking Lily by the hand. Come on, sweetie. Let's go find the vending machine and get a treat while your mom finishes talking. Elena shot her friend a grateful look as May led Lily from the room, leaving her alone with Maxwell. How dare you, Maxwell said the moment they were alone, his voice trembling with barely controlled rage. How dare you keep my child from me? Your child? Elena laughed bitterly. You mean the child you tried to have destroyed along with the other embryos? The child you would never have known about if not for this coincidence. Maxwell paled. What are you talking about? 3 years ago, you contacted the fertility clinic to destroy our remaining embryos, Elena said. By then, Lily was already growing inside me. One of those embryos you so carelessly wanted to discard. That's impossible, Maxwell insisted. You couldn't conceive. That's why. That's why you divorced me? Elena finished for him. Because I was barren? Did you ever once consider that the problem might not have been with me? Did you ever get tested yourself? The look on Maxwell's face told her everything. Of course he hadn't. His ego would never have allowed for such a possibility. The fertility specialist confirmed it, Elena continued, her voice steady despite the emotions churning inside her. There was nothing wrong with me. The issue was with your sperm motility. But you were so quick to blame me, to discard me, that you never bothered to find out the truth. Maxwell sank into a nearby chair, the color draining from his face. Why didn't you tell me about her? When exactly should I have done that? Elena asked. When you were calling me a failure as a woman. When your lawyers were threatening to leave me with nothing if I contested the divorce. Or perhaps at your wedding to Vanessa, just 6 months after you threw me away. The mention of his second wife seemed to hit Maxwell like a physical blow. Vanessa and we've been trying for years. The doctors can't explain why. I can, Elena said quietly. But that's not my problem anymore. It hasn't been for a long time. Maxwell looked up at her, his expression a complex mixture of anger, regret, and something that might have been shame. I want to know my daughter. No, Elena said firmly. Lily is happy, healthy, and loved. She doesn't need a father who only wants her because she proves he isn't the failure he thought I was. I'll take you to court, Maxwell threatened, rising to his feet. I have resources you can't imagine. I'll get shared custody. On what grounds? Elena challenged. You signed away your rights to those embryos when you tried to have them destroyed. I have the documentation, And what judge would grant custody to a man who has never shown the slightest interest in his child until now? A man who divorced his wife for being unable to conceive, when he was the one with the fertility issue all along. Maxwell's jaw tightened. People change, Elena. I've changed. Have you? She asked skeptically. Or are you just desperate for an heir, now that you've discovered Vanessa can't give you one either? The flash of guilt in his eyes confirmed her suspicion. Some things never changed. Lily deserves to know her father, Maxwell insisted, changing tactics. Every child does. What Lily deserves is to be loved unconditionally, Elena countered. Not to be a pawn in your game of dynastic succession. Not to be valued only for what she represents to your ego and your company. Before Maxwell could respond, the door opened, and Lily bounded back in, a chocolate bar in her hand and a smile on her face. Mommy, can we go home now? Auntie May says we can watch movies and have ice cream for dinner because I was so brave. Elena smiled at her daughter, her heart swelling with love. That sounds perfect, sweetheart. Let's go home. She took Lily's hand and walked toward the door, pausing briefly beside Maxwell. If you truly want to be part of her life, prove that you've changed. Prove that you can see her as a person, not a possession or a trophy or an heir. Until then, stay away from us. The weeks following the hospital encounter were tense. Elena expected legal papers to arrive any day, bracing herself for the battle she knew Maxwell was capable of waging. But nothing came. Instead, a different kind of message arrived. A handwritten letter addressed to Elena at her office. I've been seeing a therapist, Maxwell wrote. Something I should have done years ago. I realize now that my obsession with having an heir was never about continuing the Reed legacy. It was about proving myself to my father, who never thought I was good enough. I projected that same toxic expectation onto you, and I'm truly sorry for the pain I caused. Elena read the letter several times, searching for the manipulation, the hidden agenda. But the words seemed genuine, the handwriting sometimes shaky, as if written with difficulty. I won't contest your custody of Lily, the letter continued. You're right. She deserves better than a father who only wants her for what she represents. But I would like the chance someday to know her, to be the kind of father she deserves, not the kind of husband I was to you. I'll wait until you believe I'm ready, if that day ever comes. 3 months passed with no further contact from Maxwell. Elena remained vigilant, half expecting him to renege on his promise, but no legal threats materialized. Instead, on Lily's 6th birthday, a package arrived at their home. A beautiful illustrated book about a brave little girl who could do anything she set her mind to, with no card or note attached. Elena knew who it was from. 6 months after that, another package arrived, a telescope with a simple note. I remember you loved looking at the stars. Perhaps Lily might too. A year after their hospital encounter, Elena received an email from Maxwell's assistant, requesting a meeting. Wary but curious, Elena agreed to meet him at a neutral location, a quiet cafe near her office. Maxwell looked different, less polished, somehow more human. The arrogance that had once seemed permanently etched into his features had softened. Thank you for meeting me, he said as Elena sat across from him. I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't, she admitted. What do you want, Maxwell? He took a deep breath. Vanessa and I are divorcing. It's amicable. We both realized we married for the wrong reasons. I'm stepping down as CEO of Reed Enterprises. Elena couldn't hide her surprise. You're what? The company was my father's dream, not mine, Maxwell explained. I spent my entire life trying to be the son he wanted, the heir he demanded. It took losing you, and nearly losing any chance to know Lily, to realize how empty that pursuit was. "What will you do?" Elena asked, genuinely curious. "I've started a foundation," Maxwell said, a hint of enthusiasm creeping into his voice, "focusing on fertility research and support for couples struggling to conceive. And I'm writing a book about toxic masculinity and how it affects men's ability to process fertility issues." Elena studied him, looking for signs of the calculating businessman she had known. Instead, she saw someone who seemed genuinely changed by self-reflection and regret. "I'm not asking to be a full-time father to Lily," Maxwell continued when Elena remained silent. "I haven't earned that right, but I would like to meet her properly, to be a positive presence in her life, if you'll allow it." Elena thought of the little girl who sometimes asked questions about her father, innocent questions that became harder to deflect as she grew older. "I'll think about it," she said finally. "But there would have to be rules, boundaries." "Of course," Maxwell agreed quickly. "Whatever you think is best for Lily." 2 weeks later, in a carefully controlled environment with May present as moral support, Elena introduced Lily to Maxwell, not as her father, but as an old friend who wanted to get to know her. Lily, with a child's intuition, studied the nervous man with curious eyes. "You look like me," she observed matter-of-factly. "Around the eyes." Maxwell smiled, his own eyes suspiciously bright. "I was thinking the same thing." Over the following months, Maxwell proved himself to be patient and respectful of the boundaries Elena set. He never pushed for more time than she allowed, never tried to buy Lily's affection with expensive gifts, never undermined Elena's authority as a parent. When Lily turned 7, Elena made a decision. Over a quiet dinner while Lily was at a sleepover, she told Maxwell the truth. "I think it's time Lily knows who you really are," she said. "She's been asking more questions, and I don't want to lie to her anymore." Maxwell's expression was a mixture of hope and fear. "Are you sure? What if she hates me for not being there?" "Then you'll have to earn her forgiveness," Elena said simply, "just as you've been earning my trust." The conversation with Lily was difficult but necessary. Elena explained in age-appropriate terms that Maxwell was her biological father, that grown-ups sometimes make mistakes, and that he wanted very much to be part of her life now if she would let him. Lily, with the resilience of childhood, took the news better than either adult expected. "I knew he was special," she said with the wisdom of a 7-year-old. "He has the same crinkles by his eyes when he smiles, just like me." As the years passed, an unexpected peace settled over their unconventional family. Maxwell never tried to reclaim his position as CEO, finding more fulfillment in his foundation work and in the growing relationship with his daughter. Elena found that forgiveness, while difficult, was not impossible, especially when she saw the genuine love Maxwell developed for Lily, not as an heir but as the remarkable person she was becoming. On Lily's 10th birthday, as they celebrated together, Elena, Maxwell, May, and a few of Lily's friends. Elena watched her daughter blow out her candles, her face alight with joy. "What did you wish for?" Maxwell asked, now comfortable in his role as the father who had earned his place in his daughter's life. "Can't tell," Lily replied with a grin, "or it won't come true." Later, as the party wound down and Lily played with her friends in the yard, Maxwell approached Elena with a small, wrapped package. "This is for you," he said quietly. "Not for Lily, not for anyone else. Just for you." Curious, Elena unwrapped it to find a framed photograph, one she had never seen before. It showed her in profile, pregnant with Lily, standing by a window at the hospital the day of her embryo transfer. The sunlight created a halo around her, her hand resting protectively on her still flat stomach, her expression one of hope and determination. "How did you get this?" Elena asked, stunned. "Dr. Patel took it," Maxwell explained. She gave it to me when I went to apologize to her for trying to destroy the embryos. She said it was the moment she knew you would be an extraordinary mother, with or without me. Elena traced the frame with her fingertip, emotion tightening her throat. Thank you, she whispered. No, Maxwell said, his voice equally soft. Thank you for being strong enough to give Lily life when I was too weak to see what really mattered. For being brave enough to eventually let me know her, despite everything I did. You gave me a second chance I didn't deserve. Everyone deserves a second chance, Elena said, watching their daughter laugh in the sunshine. Even you, even me. As they stood side by side, watching the child who had brought them full circle, Elena reflected on the journey that had led them here. From betrayal to healing, from bitterness to forgiveness, from loss to unexpected gain. Life had a way of balancing the scales, of revealing truth in its own time. Sometimes the greatest revenge wasn't in making others suffer for their mistakes, but in finding happiness despite them, and occasionally if you were very fortunate because of them. If you've been moved by Elena and Maxwell's journey, hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs to hear that sometimes the most beautiful second chances come after our greatest heartbreaks. Subscribe to Timeless Love Tales with Mr. Harrison for more stories that remind us of the power of resilience, forgiveness, and the unexpected ways life brings us full circle. Remember, the truth always reveals itself in time. Sometimes in the eyes of a child who carries the past, present, and future in her smile.